Namaskar. Today I'm going to talk about the solar eclipse that is taking place tomorrow, that is on 8th April 2024 in Revati Nakshatra. Tomorrow is Somavati Amavasya. Any Amavasya that falls on Monday is referred to as Somavati Amavasya. We have two Somavati Amavasyas largely in a year. And these are very important Amavasyas for Pitra worship, for the worship and propitiation of your ancestors and forefathers. This eclipse, which is taking place in the sign of Pisces, solar eclipses take place on Amavasya day and lunar eclipses on Purnima day, Purnima Tithi. So tomorrow's Amavasya, which is also just a day before the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada, that is the first Navratra where we celebrate the Hindu New Year. This Amavasya is a very important Amavasya. Also the Somavati Amavasya, as I just said, and an Amavasya which is hosting the eclipse, the solar eclipse in Pisces, in the zodiac sign of Pisces, in Revati Nakshatra, which is governed by Mercury. Now, of course, this solar eclipse is not visible in India, which is good. Unlike what most newspapers write that this rare phenomena, this rare astronomical phenomena is unfortunately not visible in India, not realizing that it is not just some rare phenomena that has to be viewed, it has far-reaching consequences. This is not just some superficial conjunction happening between the smoky element of Rahu and the Agni Tattva of the sun, where Rahu Ketu engulf the luminaries. Okay, so something very interesting about this eclipse is that Revati Nakshatra, the eclipse is happening in Revati Nakshatra, and Mercury is the lord of the Revati Nakshatra. Immediately after the eclipse, Mercury is going retrograde. Mercury has already, I'll rephrase that. Mercury has already retrograded. Immediately after the eclipse, this retrograde Mercury will fall into the sign of Pisces. Now that is what will set this eclipse apart from the previous eclipses. The lord of Revati Nakshatra, which is retrograde, so which means it is happening in a nakshatra whose lord is retrograde. Okay, currently conjunct with Jupiter in Aries, but immediately after the eclipse, within a few hours, retrograde Mercury will fall back into the sign of Pisces, in which the eclipse has already taken place. That is a sign showing a major calamity, an earthquake or a water-led calamity, a tsunami. Revati Nakshatra on the Kurma Chakra represents the northeast location. Revati, the symbology is that of two fishes. It is the last nakshatra in our 27. These two fishes are also said to be Nar and Narayan. Revati is also that nakshatra that symbolizes Atma Gyan or Moksha. So really the northeastern direction is what comes across in the Kurma Chakra, because that is what Revati represents. Now, I'm just looking at the charts of a few countries, a few important countries, and then looking at how this eclipse will affect those countries. Now, the most prominent in this series is the United States of America, which is a Leo Lagna chart, and this eclipse will fall in the 8th house of USA. If we make the chart of the eclipse at 1420 hours, Washington, USA, then we see that Mars and Saturn are both falling in the 8th house. This is the chart of the eclipse. One way of looking at it, the eclipses can be looked at in three ways. You make the chart of the eclipse and then you see how different countries will be affected. Second, you look at the chart of that particular country and now you see in what house is the eclipse falling. Third, you look at the chart of the prime minister or the leader of that state and then look at in what house is that eclipse falling for that prime minister of that country or the president of that country. That too will show you, will really open up the mystery as to what is going to happen. Now, this seems to be slightly disastrous for the United States of America. Well, I've been saying this for a while that from 2020 onwards, for a period of almost 20 to 30 years, starting 2020, so we are going almost till 2040, 2050, this is a period of Khand Pralaya where the effects of Kali Yuga will be reversed, but they will not come. So it will seem like it is Satya Yuga. People will start taking the name of the Lord. All of that will happen, but it is just a small phase that will happen in this Kali Yuga. The reversal happens many times in a yuga. This is one such reversal. It is not just for a couple of years. It is a khand of almost 20 to 30 years. A lot of people feel bad, and I get some feedback saying, why do you use this phrase of khand pralaya? Well, it started from 2020. The moment you start moving across the years and across the decades, you will realize that this phrase is in reality. I mean, there is truth to this. I'm not just using this phrase as a means to scare people. In fact, to that effect, a lot of people say, oh, Bhavishya Malika is saying that the very famous book, Odia book, which says that, okay, now 3/4 of the world's population will be gone. It's not just going to go in the next 2-3 years. It will take time. But yes, a world population will lessen. That only this number of people will remain in India. I hear very terrifying, people give very terrifying analysis and analogies of what is written. But there are no coincidences. If this is in the divine scheme of things, so be it. The sun will rise in the east, and very soon India will become a very powerful economy. From number 5, we will move to number 3 very, very quickly. The world will look towards India for an Upadesha. Look at the 3rd house of the Indian horoscope. And India, by the end of the decade, will soon become the spiritual capital of the world. Yes, there is going to be mayhem, and one cannot deny that. And the signs are very, very visible. They were visible from 2020 and more so from 2024. Now, if you look at the horoscope of the United States of America, I've shared a couple of things with you. 8th house shows mass tragedies. The eclipse is falling in the 8th house of United States of America. The economy, I've been saying this since 2020, is in a downfall, and it doesn't seem to resurrect now. It is just a slow but a very steady downfall in the economy of the US of A. From January 2025, I see further troubles, specifically in the period of January 2025 to August 2025. There are further more troubles in USA. And even this year, a natural calamity is imminent. Israel, 14th May 1948, that horoscope, if we look at, which is a Kanya Lagna or a Virgo Lagna horoscope, then this eclipse will fall in the 7th house. There will be further intensification of the war between Israel and Palestine, which will prove to be another polarization of the world. The first was the Russia-Ukraine war, which polarized the world, and I've been saying it in a lot of my previous videos, which was the first stance that countries had taken whether to support Russia or Ukraine. The second happened when Israel and Palestine went to war, and this will further intensify and deepen the polarization. In Israel, the 7th house, where I said it's a Kanya Lagna horoscope, the 7th house will host the eclipse. The 7th house is aspected by natal Mars from the 12th house. So which means that it's going to be a very volatile sort of well, wars are always volatile, but this is showing that it's going to be, it'll suddenly just break into a frenzy. So, and this eclipse will just be the trigger to set that frenzy into action. If we look at Pakistan, 14th August 1947, 0000 hours, Karachi. It's an Aries Lagna chart, and I've been saying this previously in my other videos as well. If you look at the podcast that I did for the predictions basis the Ram Mandir, then in that particular video, I've said that the moment the Agni Kund of Akhand Bharat has been consecrated, then the first casualty will be that land that had gone out of our hands previously would now attach itself to this very country, because Awadh, Ayodhya, is like the capital of the country. So the seat of power of Akhand Bharat, let me put it this way, the seat of power for Akhand Bharat is Ayodhya. Once that is consecrated, and which it is, with the Lord Ram temple coming up, then it is very clear also from the horoscope of Pakistan, with the eclipse falling in the 12th house, involving the 7th Lord and the 2nd Lord, Venus, which is exalted in the 12th, and obviously involving the 4th Lord, Moon, which is also in the 12th. So this eclipse will trigger this event, that a part of that land, a part of our land which had gone that route, is going to come back, will be in reversal mode. So you can expect that within this year. POK coming into India within this year or early next year. If you look at the horoscope of Russia, then Russia too is a Kanya Lagna horoscope like Israel, and natal Mars is in the 7th house, Pisces. In Israel, the eclipse is being aspected by Mars from the 12th house, and the 8th aspect is falling on Pisces. It is like a trigger on the eclipse point. In Russia's horoscope, The eclipse is happening on natal Mars, since Pisces is hosting natal Mars, which means that the war there too will be intensifying. If one looks at the horoscope of Putin, and I will try and do a further detailed horoscope, will try and do a detailed podcast on President Putin's horoscope. From here, it seems that he is going to become weak, that Russia will face a lot of pressure. It might not be very visible in 24 and 25, but from 26, this seems to be going, Russia seems to be becoming a little weaker. From 25 end, in fact, when Saturn moves into Pisces, which is from April 2025, so here's the chronology. So I said that Russia might not feel the pinch in 24-25. Well, let me rephrase it and give you the chronology. From April 2025, the war will really intensify. It is intensifying even now because the eclipse is falling on the point of natal Mars. It will intensify now from this eclipse within this year. It further intensifies from April end 2025. Then furthermore from November 2025, and from 2026, Russia seems to weaken. The weakness might not be visible in these 2 years, but the weakness will start manifesting from 2026 onwards. But the war is intensifying. Now let us come to the horoscope of Canada. 1st July 1867, Ottawa. It is a Pisces Lagna horoscope. The eclipse is falling in the Lagna of Canada, and this eclipse is visible also in Canada, in Mexico, in the US of A. Again, for Canada, Mars is in the 6th house conjunct with Rahu in Leo. Mars will cause its 8th aspect on this eclipse point. The decisions that Canada takes now and in the next couple of years will serve disastrous for Canada. These will be diplomatic decisions, and the alignment that Canada takes will trouble Canada in the coming years. The economy of Canada too seems to be suffering from here on. Canada can also see some terrorist activities. And as I said, the diplomatic decisions taken by this country will come to haunt this country, will come to haunt Canada. And the economy seems to be going down. Iran is the next very interesting horoscope that we are looking at. 1st April 1979, 15:00 hours, Tehran. The Lagna is Cancer. In Iran's horoscope, Pisces falls into the 9th house, which is hosting natal Sun, natal Mars, and retrograde Mercury. The eclipse will fall on natal Mars and on retrograde Mercury. And don't forget, I shared a very important point saying that immediately after the eclipse, Mercury, which is already retrograde, will fall into Pisces. Iran can see some immediate retaliation in war, and Iran can also see another earthquake coming up. Because of this effect of retrograde Mercury combined with Mars and the eclipse falling on these natal points. Turkey, 29th October 1923, 20:30 hours. It's a Gemini Lagna rising horoscope, and Pisces will fall in the 10th house. The eclipse is taking place in the 10th house, and natal Mars is in Virgo. The 7th aspect of Mars will fall on this eclipse point, and Turkey too will intensify its alignment in this war, in this polarization of the world, which will eventually turn into a full-fledged war. China, 1st October 1949, 15:15, Peking, China. It is a Capricorn Lagna chart with Rahu in Pisces, Ketu, of course, in Virgo, that is Kanya. The RK Rahu Ketu axis is in Pisces and Virgo. Retrograde Mercury is in Virgo, along with Sun. Again, the effect of natal retrograde Mercury is coming across. And as I said, after the eclipse, again, Mercury, which is already retrograde. Mercury is important here from an eclipse perspective and also from an earthquake perspective, a calamity perspective, and also that it is the lord of the Revati Nakshatra in which this eclipse is falling. China too can see outbreak of a disease. In this particular case, and which can affect the skin, which can affect the ENT. China can see the outbreak of a disease. That could be the after effect of this eclipse, alongside a natural calamity, which in this case could be a disease, is what I'm trying to say. The other two charts that I was looking at, one was Italy. In Italy again, which is the 31st October, I'll share the details again. Italy is a Gemini Lagna chart with the eclipse falling in Pisces, which is the 10th house, and Mars is in Kanya aspecting this eclipse point. Italy too seems to be in the clutches of forces that are not very conducive to the growth of that country. There seems to be problem there as well. For Mexico, so largely Italy and Mexico, without getting into the details of countries, etc. For Italy and Mexico, there can be trouble related to the earth element, an earthquake. For India, this eclipse is not visible in India, but a lot of people can say, well, this is not visible in India, but how does it affect us? So if your moon is in Pisces or your ascendant is in Pisces, then this eclipse can affect you somewhat, depending on which are the planets which are the natal planets which are affecting this eclipse. Tomorrow is Somavati Amavasya. On Somavati Amavasya, there is a lot of ritual that takes place on every Amavasya, but it is of significance to be mourn or silent on Somavati Amavasya. That is a part of your tapasya. So see if you can do that. Offer kheer to Shiva. Do tarpan for your ancestors. Both these, offering kheer, the white sweet, to Shiva at the temple, to Lord Shiva at the temple and doing tarpan for your ancestors. Both will propitiate your ancestors, and Somavati Amavasya is that day when you can exhaust Pitririn. Donate milk and rice for sure. It is always good to donate these articles on an Amavasya day. And tomorrow is an Amavasya, an important Amavasya. So donate. Do charity. Give to a blind school. It is a solar eclipse and it is an Amavasya tomorrow. Worshipping the Lord during eclipse time is like worshipping the Lord on Akshaya Tritiya. The result is manifold. Surya Ashtakam can be done tomorrow. Aditya Hridaya Stotram can be done tomorrow. From the Navagraha Stotram, you can take the Surya Mantra and do it tomorrow. Japa Kusum Sankasham Kashyapeyam Mahadyutim Tamo Arim Sarva Papagnam Pranato Asmi Divakaram. This is the Surya Mantra from the Navagraha Stotram that can be chanted. A lot of people ask why you shouldn't eat food in eclipse. What is it that will happen? I remember being in a debate once where people were arguing. What is the visible change that will happen to you when you eat food during an eclipse? Well, it is not that whatever is visible is part of the universe, or whatever is visible is within the realm of science. When you hear a lot of yogis use the phrase anhadnad, it's not visible. There are many subtle realms, many sukshma drishyas, drishyams, which are not visible to the eye, but they are there. When you eat food in an eclipse, then tamas rises. And once tamas, and for a lack of a better word, I would say inertia is that word that describes tamas somewhat. But I would say it's a crippled word. It's not like a full translation, because tamasic has various many meanings. It can't just be explained with inertia. It's just like one little aspect of it. Then the 7 tissues of the body, the sapta dhatus, are affected. Rasa, plasma; rakta, blood; mamsa, muscle; medha, fat; asthi, bone; majja, marrow; and shukra, the reproductive tissue. And what affects the body then affects the mind, the intellect, the subtle working of the brain. And how you perceive is affected by tamas as well. It is said, and I'm ending it with this, it is said in Gopal Sahasranam. Gopal Sahasranam can too be chanted on an Amavasya day. It is a very, very powerful chant of little Krishna. Gopal Sahasranam can be chanted on Amavasya Tithi, Sankranti Tithi and Dwadashi. In Gopal Sahasranam, it is said that if you recite this chant, then Lakshmi, which is gone even to foreign countries, comes back to you. So this eclipse will also signal one more thing, that of course there will be a lot of foreign funding into India. A lot of foreign funding into India. A lot of investments will come into India by foreign countries. A lot of NRIs too will start coming back to their country and start investing in their own country. However, even though this eclipse is not visible in India, if you look at the horoscope of India, not the independent India horoscope, but the horoscope of Republican India, which is a Pisces Lagna chart, then this eclipse is falling in the Lagna of Republican India chart on the Rahu Ketu axis on Mars, and it clearly is very, very visible that a constitutional change will happen, and that will become the reason for some volatile drama which is going to unfold in this year. So UCC definitely is a reality, but remember, a constitutional change which will result in some volatile drama across communities in this country. Drama might not just be the right word. So some volatile action that can be, or some violent action that seems to be very, very visible from this year's chart. I'll share very, very soon the Chaitra Pratipada predictions part 2. I have already done part 1 in January end. I will do part 2 in a couple of days. And with that, I hope there was some information that you can take out from this particular podcast and which can be useful to you. Namaskar.